David's frustration boiled over when he entered the kitchen. A pot of soup was left uncovered, with flies buzzing around it. "Ijoma," he shouted, his voice echoing through the house. She hurried in, wiping her hands on her wrapper. "What is going on in this house? Is this how you want to live?" he shouted, pointing at the mess. Ijoma's face suddenly became unhappy, her eyes filling with tears. Once upon a time, in Lagos, Nigeria, David was a handsome guy that most women in Ijoma City wanted to marry. At 37 years old, he was one of the wealthiest bachelors in the city, owning multiple businesses, luxury cars, and a mansion that seemed straight out of a dream. Despite his wealth and good looks, David remained unmarried, which surprised many. Women often threw themselves at him, attending his public events, leaving love letters at his office, and even sending gifts to win his heart. But David wasn't moved by such gestures. His biggest fear was falling for a woman who loved his money more than him. Having grown up in a simple family, David valued humility, kindness, and dedication. He often told his friends that he didn't want a city girl, because they were too focused on appearances and material things. "They don't want to cook, don't want to clean, and only care about parties," he often complained. He wanted a wife who understood the value of hard work, someone who would care for his home and love him for who he truly was. His friends laughed at him, saying his standards were too high. But David didn't care. He had made up his mind. He would marry a simple village girl who hadn't been corrupted by the flashy life of the city. David decided to remain single until he found his dream wife. That alone made him the subject of ridicule among his friends. They mocked him endlessly, claiming he would never find the perfect woman. But David didn't let their words discourage him. Deep in his heart, he believed there was someone out there for him, someone who would make his house a home and fill his life with genuine love. He was determined to wait for her, no matter how long it took. One sunny afternoon, as David was driving back to the city after inspecting a building project in his hometown, he noticed a young woman carrying firewood by the roadside. Her name was Ijoma, a radiant village girl with ebony skin, soft eyes, and a captivating smile. She moved gracefully despite the heavy bundle on her head. Something about her attitude touched David deeply. He stopped his car and offered her a ride, but Ijoma politely declined. That alone made him more attracted to her. Determined to know more about her, David made inquiries in the village about her and discovered she came from a humble and respectful family. David visited Ijoma's parents to formally express his interest in marrying their daughter. Her family was overjoyed, seeing him as an honorable and wealthy man who could take care of their daughter. Ijoma, however, was not satisfied with this. She couldn't understand why a billionaire like David would want to marry her, a simple girl with no experience of city life. David assured her that he valued her simplicity, beauty, and the virtues he believed she had. His persistence melted her reservations, and soon, they were married in a grand ceremony that brought joy to both families. Ijoma moved into David's luxurious mansion in Ijoma City. At first, their love blossomed beautifully. David admired her innocence and humility, while Ijoma was overwhelmed by the lavish lifestyle she now had access to. She promised herself to make her husband happy. But city life was a whole new world for Ijoma. She felt out of place and struggled to adjust to the fast-paced lifestyle, high expectations, and unspoken rules of managing a home. One evening, David came home after a long day at work to find the dining table still cluttered with plates from breakfast. The sight frustrated him. "Ijoma," he called out sharply, and she quickly appeared, her hands still damp from washing vegetables in the kitchen. "What is this? Why are the plates still here?" he asked, his voice filled with irritation. Ijoma, startled by his tone, "I was busy preparing dinner. I didn't have time to clean the table." David sighed heavily, shaking his head. "This house can't stay like this. It looks irritating. I don't expect much, but at least keep things neat," he said before walking away. The tension between them began to grow. Ijoma struggled to balance cooking, cleaning, and adjusting to city life. She had never been taught how to manage such a large household. David, on the other hand, started questioning his decision. His friends teased him mercilessly, saying, "So this is the village girl you thought would be perfect? How's that working out for you?" Their words stung, but he still held on to the hope that things would improve. Little did he know, the challenges were only beginning. The situation in David's household worsened as the days went by. Ijoma's inability to manage the house began to affect every corner of their lives. Dirty clothes piled up in the bathroom, the kitchen sink was always full of unwashed dishes, and the floors remained dusty. One evening, David came home exhausted, hoping for a warm meal and a clean house to ease his stress. Instead, he found the living room disorganized. Wrappers and magazines were scattered on the couch, and the dining table was still littered with crumbs from breakfast. David's frustration boiled over when he entered the kitchen. A pot of soup was left uncovered, with flies buzzing around it. "Ijoma," he shouted, his voice echoing through the house. She hurried in, wiping her hands on her wrapper. "What is going on in this house? Is this how you want to live?" he shouted, pointing at the mess. Ijoma's face suddenly became unhappy, her eyes filling with tears. "I'm sorry," she mumbled, her voice trembling. But David was too angry to listen. "Sorry won't clean up all the mess in this house. I married you because I thought you could take care of a home. Was I wrong?" he asked, his words cutting deep into her. That evening, David couldn't bring himself to eat the food Ijoma had prepared. The tension between them was obvious, and for the first time, David began to doubt his decision to marry her. His friends' mocking voices echoed in his mind, and he wondered if he had set himself up for failure. Ijoma, on the other hand, felt ashamed and helpless. She loved David and wanted to make him happy, but she did not know where to start. As she lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling, she resolved to make a change. She couldn't let her marriage fall apart but did not know how to start or where to start from. One day, Ijoma overheard David's friends laughing about her poor housekeeping skills. Humiliated and heartbroken, she realized that her marriage was on the verge of collapse. Determined not to lose her husband, Ijoma sought advice from an elderly neighbor who taught her how to manage a modern home. She started by tidying up the entire house, scrubbing the floors, washing the dishes, and organizing every room with meticulous care. It was exhausting, but she was committed to proving that she could handle it. When David returned home that evening, he was surprised. The house was spotless. The dishes were neatly arranged in the kitchen, the floors gleamed, and the dining table was set for dinner. Ijoma, dressed in a clean wrapper, greeted him with a shy smile. "Welcome home, David. I hope you'll like the meal I prepared," she said softly. David stood still at the door, staring at the transformation. He had never seen the house looking so organized. The sight of it made his heart soften, but there was still a part of him that was skeptical. I'm impressed," he said, his voice softer than before. Ijoma's heart filled with hope. As they sat down to eat, David noticed the care Ijoma had put into preparing the meal. The food was simple, but it was well cooked and flavorful. For the first time in a long time, he felt a sense of peace while sitting at the table. Ijoma ate quietly, waiting for him to say something. After a few moments of silence, David spoke. "I didn't expect this from you. I didn't think you could manage everything just fine." Ijoma lowered her gaze. "I didn't either, but I've been trying. I want to make things work. I want to make you happy," she said, her voice sincere. David's heart softened, and for the first time, he felt a flicker of the love he had once felt for her. With time, their bond grew stronger. David hired a housekeeper to help Ijoma manage the mansion, giving her more time to focus on their relationship. They began spending weekends together, visiting the countryside and rekindling their love. David also apologized for his impatience, while Ijoma thanked him for not giving up on her. Together, they worked through their differences and built a stronger foundation for their marriage. Ijoma eventually became a confident, loving wife who managed her home. David, in turn, learned to appreciate her growth and supported her dreams. Their love story became an inspiration to others, proving that patience, understanding, and effort could overcome any obstacle in a marriage. The couple lived happily ever after, cherishing the lessons they had learned and the love they had fought to preserve. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications so you never miss an exciting new story. Your support means a lot, and I look forward to sharing more captivating tales with you. See you in the next video.